My father, in order to secure favor at court, decided to send one of his daughters into the palace. But none of my older sisters wanted to go. They were crying, wailing, and even threatening to kill themselves. I timidly raised my hand. Father, I want to go to the palace. And so, at the age of 7, I was carried into the imperial palace in a small sedan chair.
1.
When I got into the sedan chair, I had actually planned to cry. But my father gave me too much. 800 taels of silver. He really went all in. No wonder he was so eager to send a daughter into the palace. Grabbing onto his sleeve, I gave him a heartfelt promise. Father, I'll become a favored consort. If you ever get sentenced to death, I'll definitely save you. My father had been on the verge of tears, but now he couldn't cry anymore. Cursing under his breath, he poured a bucket of water out and slammed the door shut. So ruthless. I should learn from him. The power of example.
2.
Clutching my 800 taels, I moved into a courtyard called Kadiexuan, Butterfly Pavilion. The matron assigned to care for me was Madame Ma. There were also 7 or 8 palace maids, all of whom introduced themselves. I sat cross-legged on a folding stool, happily munching on freshly made pastries. Madame Ma and the maids across from me kept sneaking glances my way. I knew that even though I was already 7 because of years of poor nutrition, I looked more like 5 or 6. Lady Jiu, please eat slowly. Mata mo fered metea. I smiled at her and asked, Madam, will I see His Majesty today? She shook her head. You're still young, my lady. You'll meet him when you're older. I got nervous and grabbed her hand. If I don't get to meet the Emperor, will I still have food to eat and a bed to sleep in? Will I have to do laundry? Her eyes turned red. No need for any of that. Just focus on growing up in peace. I was overjoyed, positively glowing. So I settled into life at Butterfly Pavilion, eat all day, sleep all night, and do absolutely nothing else. Just 3 months in, Madame Ma happily pinched my cheeks and said I'd gotten rounder. I looked down at the fat around my waist, then picked up a pork knuckle and kept eating. Without realizing it, I overate. Clutching my swollen belly, I rolled around in pain, and Madame Ma promptly forbade me from eating too much. That afternoon, I got so hungry I couldn't stand it, so I snuck off to the Imperial Garden alone in protest. The garden was very quiet. On the southern end was a lake filled with koi fish. I crouched by the edge, watching them and swallowing hungrily. Suddenly, laughter broke the silence. I saw a boy, maybe 13 or 14, dressed in a crimson brocade robe. His narrow eyes sparkled with amusement. What are you staring at, huh? After 3 months of being pampered, I'd grown a bit of a temper. I wasn't afraid of just anyone. Even when my father had visited me, I wasn't the least bit nervous. Madame Ma had told me that since I was a consort, I only needed to fear the Emperor and the Empress, no one else. Stop right there. The boy jumped in front of me and bent down to study me.
Whose daughter are you?
Or, are you one of the new palace maids? Hands on my hips, I stared him down. What maid? I'm a Jiu, one of His Majesty's concubines. He clearly froze at that. As expected, there's no one in this world I need to fear, except the Emperor. You must be the daughter Prime Minister Sure sent into the palace, right? His eyes widened, and he stared at me like I was a bunny. That's right. I'm sure Shu, Lady Jiu sure. I kept my hands firmly on my hips. He stared at me for a second, then burst out laughing.
Ah.
You're sure Shu? That sounds like stone rat. You know, the kind with the fluffy tail? You really do look the part. Little stone rat, don't move from here, he yelled and ran off. I stood there, unmoved, arms still crossed. Fine, I won't move. You think I'm scared of you? Humph. His laughter echoed even louder. Soon he returned, bringing 5 other boys with him. They surrounded me in an instant. They circled around, inspecting me like I was some rare animal. Is she really a consort? She looks 5 years old. She's 7. I saw her at the Prime Minister's manor. She was squatting in a corner doing laundry, just like a little rat. Yeah, she's the stone rat. with that fluffy tail, bouncing around the trees. Doesn't she look just like one? Chubby cheeks, round face, messy hair, totally a rat. They laughed so hard they were doubled over. Wait. So, what are we supposed to call her? Mother consort? You can call her that. I'm not doing it. As they joked, they poked at my face and tugged on my braids. I got scared and bolted. Madam, help. Behind me, their laughter rang out louder than ever. I was furious. Just you wait. I'll get my revenge. 3. I figured out who they were. Madame Ma told me everything. The one in the crimson robe was the crown prince. He was 11 this year. The others were all his younger brothers. While Madame Ma was kneading dough, I leaned on the table and watched her. If I'm angry, can I spank them? And how does Lady Jiu plan to spank them? She asked. I spread out my hands and slapped the dough with a loud smack. Like this. Madame Ma and the palace maids burst out laughing. I pouted. I'm a consort. Can I even do that? Sister Xian wiped the flour off my face and stuffed a piece of candy in my mouth. It's freshly made pear candy. Tastes good. Yummy. Forget it. I wasn't angry anymore, thanks to the sweet candy. Our Lady Jiu is so generous. Truly a grand heart, like a prime minister's belly, big enough to sail a boat, Sister Xian teased, pinching my nose. A prime minister's belly? My dad's belly does look big enough to float a boat. The next day, I was sticking maple leaves onto paper in the courtyard when suddenly, a handsome head popped up over the wall. He called out to me, "Little stone rat, what are you doing?" I glared at him. "My name is Shirshu." The crown prince laughed loudly. Then, pop, a head popped up on his left, then pop, 2 more on his right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All 6 princes were here. You sticking maple leaves? I'm really good at that. Maple leaves are boring. Let's go fishing. Fishing is boring too. Let's play polo.
No.
I want roasted venison. Roasted venison? I gripped my leaf, stunned, staring at the boy on the far end. They all burst into laughter again. Looks like she wants roasted venison. Let's go. Venison, here we come. I crouched carefully at the threshold, peeking at them through the crack in the door with one eye. They were also peeking at me through the door. Come on, little stone rat, come out already. I wanted to go, but I hesitated and looked back at Madame Ma. She patted my head and smiled. Go on. I happily opened the door. The second and third princes each held one of my hands. The fourth prince, not wanting to be left out, took one of my braids, and so did the fifth. The crown prince held the sixth prince's hand, walking in front while shaking a red tassel with a grin. They talked so much, I couldn't catch all their words. But the smell of venison, it was amazing. Have your adult teeth come in yet? Can you chew? The fifth prince crouched in front of me, tilting his head. Open your mouth, let me see. Ah. Your teeth have grown in, but there are cavities. Better eat less candy, the crown prince said, glancing at me while tending the grill. I looked at the 5 heads huddled together studying my teeth and quickly shut my mouth and covered it. No way. Without candy, I can't be happy. The 6th prince nodded solemnly. No way. Without candy, she won't be happy. The other 5 froze for a moment, then burst out laughing together. Second brother, her idea of happiness is so simple. Our tutor says simple-minded people are happier. Oh, the tutor is always right. The 6th prince's chubby hand pinched my cheek. You're the stone rat. If you don't eat candy, you can eat pine nuts instead. I didn't want pine nuts, so I slapped his hand away. Leave her alone and come eat, the crown prince called out. Everyone cheered and grabbed a piece of meat, then all crowded around me, holding it up to my mouth. Be good, little stone rat. Eat some meat. I burst into laughter again. Roasted venison is so delicious. The 6th prince nodded along, copying me. Roasted venison is so delicious. You can have all of it.
4.
I ate too much meat, and that night I ended up clutching my stomach, throwing up and having diarrhea. I was dizzy and groggy, took a lot of medicine. When I opened my eyes, the crown prince was sitting at my bedside, looking at me anxiously. When he saw I was awake, he reached out and gently touched my forehead. Feeling better? I smiled and nodded. I was fine all along. The venison was delicious. He let out a sigh of relief, but couldn't help laughing. You're such a greedy little cat. After he left, I threw up again. Madame Ma helped me rinse my mouth and stroked my face. Does Lady Jiu blame the crown prince and the other princes for this? I shook my head hard. Of course not. They were kind enough to share venison with me. It's my own fault I couldn't handle it. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't even have known what venison tasted like. Good child, Madame Ma said with a smile. You're destined for good fortune. That afternoon, when school let out, the 5 princes came to visit me together, each bringing a gift. I treated them to some pastries. After that, they came to see me every day after class. The 6th prince even started teaching me to read, but I always felt something was off. This character, didn't you pronounce it differently yesterday? I was confused, even more than before. Did I? He blinked. Then I must have been wrong yesterday. Just listen to how I say it today. The 6th prince had a brush in his mouth, ink smudged all over his lips. Why should I trust today's version? Was yesterday definitely wrong? I wiped his mouth and he puckered up and wiped mine in return, mumbling, Mother Consort says as long as I'm smarter today than I was yesterday, that's good enough. I got it. Sitting beside him, I munched loudly on an apple. The 6th prince stopped writing, sat down next to me, and grabbed an apple too. We sat side by side, swinging our legs together. When Madame Ma came in, she couldn't stop laughing. She even picked me up and kissed me. One morning, Sister Xian shook me awake. Ashoo, it's snowing outside. I jumped up. She carried me to the window, and I wrapped my arms around her neck, beaming. Sister, let's go sweep the snow off the plum blossoms. Sister Xian blinked. Weren't we going to build a snowman? Sweeping snow is more important. You and Madame Ma keep coughing. I asked the doctor, and he said boiling tea with plum blossom snow can help with that. I hurried to get dressed. Sister Xian stood by the door, eyes red as she watched me. Even after I was fully dressed, she hadn't moved. Hurry up, sister, hurry. I picked up the clay jar I'd prepared earlier and swept up a whole lot of snow. Both Madame Ma and Sister Xian drank the tea. What's Shu waiting for? I'm waiting for the princes. I want them to have some too. I asked Madame Ma, can I go find them? She glanced at the time and said I could. I carried the teapot through thick snow, greeting everyone I passed. It was my first time visiting the school hall. I leaned against the window and peeked inside. Just as I settled into position, everyone inside turned to look at me at once. Startled, I slipped and fell off the water jar I was standing on. The crown prince came out and helped me up. Did you come alone?
What are you doing here? Da.
I held up the teapot to him.
For all of you.
He looked both amused and exasperated. He took the teapot from me, and I reminded him, it's for everyone. They're too young to drink much tea, he replied. Just as he said that, a bunch of boys crowded over, all eyes fixed on me, bombarding the crown prince with questions. Who is she? I wanted to say I was a Jiu, but the crown prince had told me not to mention that outside, so now I didn't know how to introduce myself. She's so cute. Doesn't she look like a bunny? More like a Persian cat, said a younger boy, curling his fingers into claws. Meow. He was so silly I couldn't help but laugh. She's even cuter when she smiles. Can I pinch your cheeks? As he said that, several hands reached toward me. Enough, the crown prince barked. He called someone to escort me home. At that moment, the 2nd through 6th princes came out from another room. They shoved the others aside, all eager to try the tea. Stone rats never had class, right? Come join us.
Huh.
My head spun. No, I've never had a lesson. Come on, join us. The teacher won't be mad. They dragged me into the classroom. When the teacher saw me, he paused and asked a nearby page which family I was from. The page whispered to him, and the teacher's expression turned soft and sympathetic. Take a seat, he said. I hugged a hand warmer and sat cross-legged beside the crown prince. The classroom was so warm and cozy. I started to nod off. Just as I dozed off, the room burst into laughter. I jolted awake, even more confused. Their laughter only got louder. I glanced at the crown prince for help. He was holding back laughter and whispered, "Ignore them, just sleep." He looked especially handsome today. His clothes were ones I'd never seen before, and he smelled really nice, but I didn't know what the scent was. I leaned in closer, sniffing. With his left hand holding a book, he suddenly reached out with his right and turned my face away. "Pay attention in class," he said, barely suppressing a smile.
Oh,
I nodded obediently.
5.
On the Laba festival, the palace was buzzing with excitement. We snuck over to the imperial kitchen to steal some laba porridge, and while we were squatting by the wall eating, a man dressed in bright yellow robes walked past. "What are you doing?" he asked. His voice was low and commanding. It carried authority. I was so startled, I almost dropped my bowl. The crown prince and his 5 brothers all knelt respectfully and called out, "Father Emperor." I quickly followed suit and blurted out, "Father Emperor." The moment I said it, I regretted it.
I wasn't supposed to call him that.
That was the emperor. I lowered my head, wishing I could shrink into my bowl and turn into a red bean. The emperor noticed me. Since when did I have a daughter? He had 6 sons and no daughters. I said it wrong. I stammered, keeping my head down.
I'm sorry.
Father Emperor, she's just a little girl, like a parrot. She repeats what she hears, the crown prince quickly explained. I nodded vigorously. Yes, yes.
I'm dumb.
Oh, now I remember. The emperor crouched slightly in front of me and tapped the tip of my nose. You must be Prime Minister Shir's youngest daughter? I looked up at him. He was very handsome, much younger than my father. I nodded. How old are you? He asked. I glanced at the crown prince, worried I'd say something wrong. He'd told me not to mention the word Jiu. I figured the emperor must have forgotten my status. After all, other consorts go to see the emperor at night, but I'd been in the palace for so long and was only meeting him now for the first time. So I was sure he didn't remember me. I'll be 8 after the new year. The emperor paused for a moment, then patted my head. He turned to the official beside him and said, "Daughters really are more lovable." The official glanced at the crown prince. The crown prince quickly lifted his head to look at him too. In that split second, their eyes met, and I didn't understand what passed between them, but it felt like something unspoken was exchanged. Then the official covered his mouth and laughed. Indeed, as they say, daughters are a father's little cotton-padded jacket. The emperor nodded. Suddenly, I was struck with inspiration. Just like I used to sweet-talk my father at home, I gave him my sweetest smile and said, "Then let me be your majesty's little cotton-padded jacket." I'm very well behaved. The emperor blinked, then burst out laughing. I mean it. I started sweating, afraid he wouldn't believe me. I can even pound your legs and shoulders. Lately, I'd been doing that for Madame Ma. Her legs always hurt at night. I stood behind the emperor and gave his shoulders a good dozen firm pats. Then I tilted my head and asked, "How is that?" "Feels nice, right?" "Very nice. You really are a little cotton-padded jacket." The emperor kept laughing. Everyone around him laughed too. I didn't quite get what was so funny. But laughter is always better than stern faces. Chief Minister Kai, go summon Prime Minister Shir. I want to thank him personally for sending me such a little jacket, the emperor said. Then he gave the crown prince a few parting instructions and left with his entourage. After they were gone, the crown prince lowered his head and stared at me. I tugged on his sleeve and whispered, "Did I say something wrong?" "You did great, little stone rat," he said, pinching my cheek. "You earned yourself a feast today." Yes, yes. She did great, the 6th prince chimed in. The tutor was right. Fools have fortune, the 2nd prince said with a grin. The crown prince shot him a look, but even he couldn't hold back a smile. The 6th prince held my hand, and I bounced happily along with them toward the feast. That night, when I got back, Madame Ma and Sister Xian hugged me and cried. I had a vague sense that something big had just happened. Sure enough, the next day, I was officially granted the title of County Princess, with the honorific name Yongping. Everyone was thrilled, and I was too, because Madame Ma told me a county princess outranked a Jiu. I even went to pay respects to the empress and the noble consort. They were both very kind and gave me many rewards. Stone Rat, come quick, the sixth prince called out, hugging a wooden stool and waving me over. Let's go ice skating. I turned to look at Madame Ma. Wear something warm, she said. She wrapped me up like a dumpling, and off I went to skate with the sixth prince. He may have been chubby, but he was incredibly agile. Soon, we were spinning on the ice hand in hand. He even carried me on his back while skating. When we went fast, the wind hit my face. It felt like flying. Do you like it? The sixth prince asked. I love it. I nodded hard. I could hear you two laughing from miles away, the second prince said from the shore.
Humph.
You two are the idlest ones in the entire palace, the fifth prince muttered. The crown prince stood to the side, silent. Come join us. I waved at them. It's so fun. The crown prince's face was tight. He said sternly, the ice is too thin. Come back up. The sixth prince and I didn't dare disobey. We scrambled off the ice. The crown prince shoved a hand warmer into my hands, frowned, and asked, Did you finish the homework I assigned you? I stared at him in shock. I thought I still had 3 more days? He tapped me on the head. It's due today. Go back and write.
6.
That winter, it snowed nonstop. I heard there were snow disasters in many places. So I asked my father for 1,000 taels, added it to my own savings, and went with the sixth prince to see the emperor. What are you two up to? The emperor asked, glancing at us. We're donating money for disaster relief, I said, placing the silver notes on the table. Donating money and clothes, the sixth prince added, dragging in a big bundle of winter garments. The emperor flipped through the silver notes on the table and rewarded each of us with a piece of candy. I'll accept this on behalf of the people. Thank you both, he said, patting my head, then flicking the sixth prince lightly on the forehead. Still dumb, but at least you're good-natured. Stick with our shoe more often. The sixth prince and I covered our mouths, nodding in sync. Father Emperor, I like little stone rat. I'll definitely play with her, the sixth prince said. The emperor seemed quite pleased and reminded us to be careful on the road. When he went to the temple to pray for blessings, he brought me along. I knelt sincerely and made a wish that the snow would stop immediately and that the sun would shine brightly every day. And then something magical happened. The day after the emperor offered his prayers, the snow stopped. All the people bowed in gratitude, praising the emperor's virtue. That evening, the emperor invited me to dine with him. He laughed and said he must have benefited from my lucky energy, then rewarded me with lots of fun trinkets and asked if I wanted to visit home. But I didn't want to go back. After my stepmother died, my father, my birth mother, and my sisters didn't like me. I had to do all sorts of chores every day, make tea for my sisters, even wash their clothes. When I tried to complain to my father, he only said he was too busy and told me not to bother him. Eventually, I stopped going to him altogether. But Madame Ma always said I was a blessed child. Otherwise, how else would I have ended up in the palace? Your father and family didn't treat you well? The emperor asked, frowning. No. I waved my hands quickly. Father's just really busy. He doesn't have time to watch over me. And my sisters are still young. Sometimes they scold me, but we forget it right after. I used to be angry, used to think about getting revenge once I grew up. But now, it didn't matter anymore. Then stay here in peace. We'll find you a female tutor to study with properly, the emperor said. You're already 8. You shouldn't be running around like a wild child anymore. Okay, I understand. But I still played with everyone. I often went to the study hall too. I even sewed a knee pad for Teacher Song. He always knelt on the floor cushion, and his knees must have hurt. Teacher Song said he liked it very much and gave me a calligraphy book, telling me to finish it within a month. I held the book in my arms, almost in tears. I like Teacher Song. Why would he punish me like this? He chuckled, then gently tapped the desk with his teaching stick. Listening to your teacher means you do like your teacher. I slouched my head and trudged home. When the Crown Prince visited me and saw the calligraphy book, his expression grew odd. That book is one of a kind. Keep it safe. It's that precious? I tucked it away carefully, terrified I might damage it and ruin Teacher Song's kind intentions. The sixth prince got busier too. He studied late every night. When he came to find me, he'd immediately flop onto the bed and fall asleep, then wake up just to eat. Doesn't your mother consort feed you? I asked, wiping his mouth. He always ended up looking like a smudged little kitten when he ate. With a pig's trotter still in his mouth, he leaned on my shoulder and sobbed, "Boo-hoo, I don't want to study. I just want to play with you every day." "Then I'll come play with you," I offered. His eyes lit up. And so, every day after his classes ended, I squatted by his window and chatted with him. No one knew it was our little secret. Spring passed and autumn came. The emperor was going on the autumn hunt. And this time I was going too. "Bring your riding boots. I'll teach you how to ride this time," the second prince said. "She'll need a whip too," the crown prince told Madame Ma. "And bring extra clothes and mosquito repellent." The sixth prince and I weren't paying attention to any of that. We were each clutching a small bundle, stuffing them with as many snacks as possible. He slipped me a candy. Leaning in close, he whispered in my ear, "It's really tasty, isn't it? I'll hide the rest in your boots. No one will find them there." I nodded hard. "You're being loud. You think no one can hear you?" The crown prince walked over, held out his hand in front of my mouth. I sucked once more, then reluctantly spat the candy into his palm. He wiped his hand and silently poked my forehead. "Let her eat one. She's about to cry," the second prince said, laughing. "Don't cry. There'll be tons of wild berries where we're going. They taste better than candy," said the third prince. The fourth prince nodded. "I'll hunt a rabbit for you to play with." I cheered up instantly. When it was time to depart, the sixth prince snuck into my carriage, lifted his coat sneakily, and revealed a cloth pouch tied around his waist. Like performing a magic trick, he pulled out a whole handful of candies. "Aren't I super smart?" he giggled, then shushed me. "Don't make a sound. You're so smart." I nodded enthusiastically. Then we both pulled a blanket over our heads and hid underneath, secretly munching away. 7. The crown prince was always with the emperor, so we hardly ever saw him. So we followed the second prince instead. He taught me and the sixth prince how to ride horses. He even got me a little pony. It wasn't very fast, but I could ride it. We raced on horseback, and I won every time. I knew they were letting me win on purpose, to make me happy. To thank them, I made some pastries with Madame Ma. They all said they loved them. "Take a break," the second prince said as he lay down on the grass, gazing up at the blue sky and white clouds. The sixth prince and I copied him and lay down too. A falcon soared past overhead. The second prince asked me, "What do you want to be when you grow up, little stone rat?" "I want to be an official." I sat up and looked at him. "Like my father, a big important one." He chuckled softly and picked a wildflower from the grass to hand to me. "That won't do. Girls can't hold government office." I played with the flower and thought about it. "Then I'll become a cook in the imperial kitchen and make you all delicious food every day." The second prince smiled gently. After a while, he looked at the sky and sighed. "Wouldn't it be nice if we never grew up? Growing up is great. You can eat whatever you want," the sixth prince said while picking flowers for me. I wanted to grow up too, but I didn't say anything. That evening, they brought back 4 rabbits. The fifth prince wanted to roast them, but the sixth prince refused, and the two of them got into an argument. I secretly hid the rabbits. "What do you want to eat, stone rat?" the crown prince asked. "Roast venison." I pointed outside at the pile of game. "So many deer." That night, while the meat was roasting, the sixth prince and I secretly drank some fruit wine. It was sweet and very tasty. But as I kept drinking, my vision started to blur and overlap. "Why are there 2 crown princes?" I tilted my head, staring at him. And you have so many hands. The Crown Prince's expression turned thunderous, his face darker than the coals in the fire pit. Xiao Jingrui, he barked at the sixth prince. Do you want me to string you up and beat you? The sixth prince hugged me tightly and kept trying to get me to drink water. I only let her try a little. I didn't know she was such a lightweight. She's a child. She shouldn't be drinking at all, the Crown Prince shouted. It's not his fault. I grabbed his sleeve and pleaded, punish me instead. It was my fault, you silly thing. The second prince patted my head and said to the Crown Prince, let it go. It's a lesson learned. Sooner or later, it was bound to happen. The Crown Prince's face remained cold as he pulled me from the sixth prince's arms and carried me back to my tent. Madame Ma and Sister Xian rushed over. Inside the tent, the noise and all the shadowy figures seemed really funny to me. I squinted and laughed for a long time. The next morning, I remembered some of what happened, but not everything. Sister Xian said I had grabbed the Crown Prince's sleeve and asked him why he was becoming meaner and meaner. I was terrified. I knew I wouldn't escape punishment. Sure enough, the Crown Prince sent someone to pass on his order. I had to copy 50 pages of calligraphy. My hand was about to fall off from writing, but in the end, I was rescued when the Emperor noticed I wasn't at lunch. The Crown Prince didn't say anything more, so I barely avoided disaster. Let's go hunting tomorrow in the game reserve, the fifth prince shouted. Otherwise, it'll feel like we came here for nothing. The Emperor agreed and instructed the attendants to bring us along. The next morning, I got dressed and rode my pony to meet them. The second prince straightened my saddle. Stay with me. Don't run off. I nodded firmly. The Crown Prince was off handling business, so the rest of us entered the forest together. I saw a baby deer and even found a rabbit nest. Then, while standing beneath a tree, I saw a stone squirrel for the first time. It was bouncing and leaping all over the branches, with a big fluffy tail trailing behind it. I shouted for the sixth prince to come see. There really is a stone squirrel. But when I turned around, I suddenly realized everyone had run off in another direction. Where are you going? I called out and quickly chased after them. Little stone rat, the second prince called as he pushed aside a bush and ran toward me. There's a bear ahead. We need to get you back. But just then, his horse neighed loudly and bolted into the woods in a panic. The second prince didn't chase it. Instead, he grabbed my hand and ran back the way we came. I was panting so hard I could barely breathe, but I didn't dare stop. Where are the others? I gasped. The second prince suddenly stopped, then turned and pulled me in another direction. And when I looked back over my shoulder, I saw a dark, hulking shape. It looked like a wild boar, and it was staring at us with eerie, beady eyes.
8.
I was injured. When I woke up, the bed was surrounded by people. The second prince's eyes were red as he looked at me, filled with guilt. Later, I remembered, when that wild boar charged at us, I had thrown myself in front of him to shield him. Then everything went dark. The guards arrived just in time and killed the wild boar. When I moved a little, a burning pain shot through my back. The physician said I had fractured bones in my back and could only sleep lying on my stomach. So on the way back, I lay face down in the carriage. But I wasn't bored. Everyone took turns keeping me company. Reckless, the Crown Prince scolded as he poked my forehead. Your little body wouldn't even make one decent bite for a wild boar. I pouted and mumbled a retort. That's not true. I'm chubby now. The Crown Prince looked exasperated and closed his eyes, ignoring me. He had gotten more and more stern as he grew older. I already knew this, so I didn't dare talk back. I just laid there groggily, until suddenly he asked, if it were me, would you have protected me like that? I struggled to lift my eyelids and nodded without thinking. I'd protect any of you. The Crown Prince curled his lips, his tone a little sharp. What are you, a saint? A little Buddhist acolyte sent to save all beings. Huh. I didn't know how to respond. I bit my lip and looked at him. He let out a sigh. Why am I even arguing with you, silly girl? Go to sleep. And I did fall asleep. When I woke up again, it was the second prince sitting beside me. Ah, Shu, he said, besides wanting to be a cook, have you ever thought about getting married? I shook my head. I never thought about marriage. Then who do you like the most? He asked while pouring me tea. The sixth prince had asked me this before. I already had an answer. I like everyone. His lips pressed into a tight line. Then he smiled helplessly and patted my head. Got it. Ah, shoo. Focus on getting better and growing up strong. I nodded seriously. I healed quickly. Within a month and a half, I was running around again. But then it started snowing in the capital again. I was afraid there would be another snow disaster like last year. Turns out I wasn't the only one afraid. Everyone was on edge. The second prince volunteered to go north for inspection. Noble consort Xian wept in front of the emperor. He's only 11. He's too young. But the second prince still went. Before leaving, he brought me roasted chestnuts and sweet osmanthus cakes from Changchun Palace. Take care of yourself, Ah Shu, he said with a smile. The third, fourth, fifth, and sixth princes and I all went to see him off at the palace gate. We stood on the wall, waving and cupping our hands to shout, "Come back soon." He turned on horseback and waved back. Not long after, the crown prince also had to leave. His journey was farther and more dangerous. The night before his departure, I finished sewing a pair of knee warmers for him and personally delivered them. He patted my hand and said in a low voice, "Focus on your studies. When you're free, go sit with my mother and learn how she manages things." "I can't be an official anyway," I whispered. "What's the point of learning all that?" "Who says you can't?" he scowled. "You should learn everything. Don't believe that nonsense about how a woman's virtue is in her ignorance." "Okay," I mumbled, wanting to tell him to be careful on the road. But he just kept instructing me. "When I get back, I'll check your assignments. If you've slacked off, I'll punish you hard." I could only nod. The crown prince left early the next morning. The third prince said worriedly, "It's his first time on the battlefield. They say it's terrifying, heads rolling everywhere." "If we don't fight, it'll be the commoners' heads rolling," sighed the fourth prince. "When I grow up, I'll lead troops myself and wipe out those barbaric Beimeng dogs," the fifth prince growled, pounding the wall. The sixth prince and I didn't dare say a word, but we were both anxious. That was war, blades and blood, with no mercy. That night, I had a terrible dream. In it, the second prince was buried under an avalanche. The crown prince was covered in blood. I woke up crying. Madame Ma hugged me, patting my back gently. Dreams are always the opposite. They'll return safely, you'll see. The next day, I asked the empress for a Buddhist scripture. I sat with her in the small prayer hall, copying and chanting every day. The sixth prince would sometimes come and read with me, but he never got far before falling asleep on my lap. We waited and waited. As the new year approached, the second prince finally came back. He'd lost a lot of weight. His once fair face was chapped and red from the cold. The emperor and noble consort Xian were both overjoyed, and so was I. "Look what I brought you," he said on the third day after returning, after staying with noble consort Xian. In his palm lay a translucent crystal. "It's beautiful. Where did it come from?" "There's a mine up north. The snow was heavy and they didn't care. One day, there was an avalanche. It buried a lot of people." My heart clenched as I listened. I went to help and ended up buried myself for half a day. I was half frozen, barely conscious, when I grabbed this by accident. My nose stung. I hadn't realized he'd gone through something so dangerous. "Don't cry," the second prince said softly. "I'm back alive, aren't I? Also, this is a secret. Don't tell anyone." I knew he didn't want noble consort Xian to worry. He wouldn't be allowed to leave again if she found out. "Okay." I handed the crystal back. "It's important. You should keep it." He gave it back. "It is important. That's why I want you to keep it safe for me, until I come get it." I found a velvet box and stored the crystal carefully inside. But by New Year's, the crown prince still hadn't returned. So I temporarily moved into Cunning Palace to stay with the empress. Even though the north had sent back good news and everyone was celebrating, our New Year still felt cold and quiet. On the Lantern Festival, I was in the kitchen with Madame Ma making sticky rice balls when the sixth prince suddenly burst in. Ah shoo! His eyes were red, and dried tear tracks lined his cheeks. What's wrong? I looked at him. Big brother, the crown prince, he burst into sobs. He's missing. It's been over 10 days, and they still haven't found him. My vision went dark, and I collapsed into the chair.
9.
I forced myself to go to Cunning Palace. There, I listened as the messenger detailed everything that had happened. The crown prince had been stationed at Dong'an County, where the main battlefront was. He managed to repel the enemy, but they unexpectedly shifted toward Dong'an County, which was 300 li away. That day, the crown prince was preparing for his return to the capital when he suddenly received an urgent military report. Without hesitation, he led his troops out again. But this time, there was a traitor inside Dong'an County who leaked his marching route. The crown prince's forces were ambushed and scattered by the Baiman troops. Amid the chaos, the crown prince went missing. They searched the entire area, but found no trace of him, alive or dead. The empress fainted several times. I moved back into Cunning Palace to stay with her. The emperor dispatched many men to search for him. That night, a few of the princes and I sat dazed in the courtyard of Cunning Palace. The fifth prince insisted on going to look for him himself. The sixth prince said, second brother already requested permission from father, but he wouldn't allow it. In a fit of anger, the fifth prince kicked over the brazier at his feet. The empress had grown thin. She now spent most of her time in prayer. I too had lost all interest in anything. Every day I simply copied and recited Buddhist scriptures. Ah shoo, your 10th birthday is coming up. What would you like as a present? The sixth prince came to see me after his studies. I shook my head, resting my chin on the table as I looked at him. We're missing someone. I don't want to celebrate. I sighed. The sixth prince sighed too. He leaned on the table with me, gazing blankly at the tender buds just emerging outside the window. The second prince was busy. Noble consort Xian's influence in the harem was quietly starting to overshadow that of the empress, but the empress didn't seem to care. She just held the crown prince's robe and knelt before the Buddha every day. Did fifth brother go to the training field again?
Emma.
He says he wants to become a general and guard the borders. The sixth prince let out another sigh. Ah shoo, everyone has something they want to do. Why don't I have anything? I sighed as well. Me neither. My wish was simple, for the 7 of us to stay together, safe and sound. Always. Before my 10th birthday, my father came to visit me in the palace. As he was leaving, he reminded me, Your Highness, don't stay in Cunning Palace anymore. You should spend more time with the second prince. I looked at him, confused. Why? He leaned down and whispered in my ear, The crown prince is almost certainly not coming back. The second prince will most likely be named heir. There's no benefit in lingering around the empress. You're 10 now. It's time to start thinking about your future. That day, my father and I got into a fight. He stormed off, sleeves flying in frustration. The crown prince would come back. The second prince never had his eye on the throne. All 6 brothers genuinely cared for each other. But some people, driven by their own gain, were bent on tearing them apart and turning them into enemies. On my birthday, I received many gifts. While tidying them up with my head down, I heard the door creak open. Sister, you've worked hard today.
Get some rest.
I can wash up myself, I said without turning around.
Ashu.
A hoarse male voice rang out behind me. I whipped around, and the gifts in my hands crashed to the floor. Your Highness. My eyes instantly filled with tears. He hadn't lost much weight, but he looked more mature, taller. He stepped forward and gently wiped away my tears with his fingers. His voice choked. Don't cry. I came back in one piece. I bit my own arm. It hurt. This isn't a dream. I smiled through my tears. He poked my forehead. Still the same little dummy. I was overjoyed. This was the most precious birthday gift I could have ever received. I laughed and cried all at once, bombarding him with question after question. He stayed with me for half an hour. Only then did I find out he had snuck back into the palace, just to see me first. Go see the Empress. I urged him. She's missed you so much. He lowered his voice. Not yet. I'm leaving again for now. Tomorrow afternoon, the news of my return will be officially released. I stared at him, puzzled. Until then, don't tell anyone I'm back. All right. I won't say a word. I nodded and gave him my word.
10.
The next afternoon, news truly spread that the crown prince had been found. The empress was overjoyed. She rushed out from the Buddha hall to find the emperor. It must be true. The message wouldn't be fake. Don't panic, the emperor said, comforting her. The empress leaned into his arms and burst into tears. The second prince and I quietly closed the door to the study and stood outside. I was just as happy, but I didn't dare show it too much, afraid the second prince might see through me. Ah, shoo, the second prince whispered next to my ear. Once Big Brother comes back, we'll throw you a proper birthday celebration. I looked at him, and he playfully winked at me. The joy in his eyes was genuine, bright and untainted. He wasn't like the rumors claimed, eager for the crown prince to die so he could take the title. I knew it. To him, brotherhood meant far more than a crown. I nodded happily. I want to go to a restaurant outside the palace and have a big meal. The second prince patted my head. All right, it's my treat. But that evening, I heard that noble consort Xian had struck the second prince. I wanted to go see him, but Momo stopped me. Matters of court and politics, ah shoo, you must never get involved in them. I understood, and I'd never asked about them. I just worried for the second prince. After all, noble consort Xian had been quite overbearing lately. To have hope, then be disappointed again. It must have been unbearable. The next day, the crown prince returned. But this time he was injured. I was shocked when I saw him. Just 2 days ago, he looked perfectly fine. How did you get hurt? I asked softly as I brought him medicine. He only smiled, brushing it off. Got into a fight with a bad guy. But I won. Why the long face? The crown prince raised his brows at me. Did you finish the homework I gave you? I nodded. I finished it before the new year. When you didn't come back, I did it twice more. He looked pleased. He reached behind him and pulled out a worny pad and handed it to me. Then here's another task for you. It's so worn. Why haven't you thrown it out? I said with a laugh. But he treated it like a treasure, tucking it back under his pillow. You gave it to me. I can't bear to throw it out. Then I'll make you 10 pairs. 100 pairs. Not just me, all 6 of us were happy. We crowded around the crown prince's bed, chatting away. Let's go to Fengxiang Pavilion. The seafood's good. Ah, Shu likes it, suggested the third prince. Fengxiang's food is bland. Nangwang's better, said the fifth prince. The newly opened Dongfeng Pavilion is great too. The crown prince hasn't tried it. The 4 of them started bickering. The second prince cut in. Then I'll decide. Lunch at Nangwang, an afternoon boat ride, dinner at Fengxiang, and a late-night snack at Dongfeng. Sound good? Everyone agreed. A few days later, the weather was perfect. The 7 of us left the palace, laughing all the way. Boating, sightseeing, eating out. It was everything I had dreamed of. The riverside scenery during the boat ride was stunning. The second prince was in high spirits. He even played the guqin. Play, armored horses and battlefields. The fifth prince cried. The tune struck up, bold and stirring, like iron and fire. The fifth prince broke a slat from the window and swung it like a sword in midair. I watched, eyes wide, clapping and shouting my praise. At noon, we went to Nangwang Pavilion. I'd thought it would be an ordinary restaurant, but it was decorated in bold red and green, full of singing birds. It was unexpectedly fun. Once we settled into a private room, I went to the washroom with Sister Xian. She was also in great spirits, saying she hadn't been out in years. The emperor said I can go out once a month from now on. I whispered to her. Then we should think about where to go next time. As we chatted, we turned a corner and came face to face with a group of men and women. The corridor was narrow, so I stepped aside to let them pass. But they stopped when they saw me, studying me intently. Never seen this little girl before. Whose family is she from? Asked a tall man. Their breath reeked of alcohol, and I shrank back behind Sister Xian. Let's just go, I whispered, tugging her hand. 11. She looks like a little bunny. They laughed in a way that made my skin crawl. I turned around with Sister Xian, but they blocked our way. How old are you? Whose daughter are you? One man said. Just tell us, and we'll let you pass. Watch your mouth. Sister Xian snapped. Move aside, or don't blame us for being impolite. And how will you be impolite? One of the men leaned against the railing. The woman beside him covered her face and giggled. Yes, what do you plan to do to a marquis heir? A marquis heir? I'd never seen this man before, and clearly, he didn't recognize me either. Move. Sister Xian scolded again, but they didn't budge. Especially the marquis heir, so arrogant. In the capital, no one dares speak to me like that. Even the crown prince has to call me brother, he said smugly. I suddenly looked up at him. Are you the heir of the Duke of Kai's household? The Duke of Kai? I'm from the Marquis of Huayin's family, he snapped. So, not the crown prince's cousin, but the second prince's. I was just about to tell him who I was, but before I could speak, the crown prince and the others came out from the private room. He crossed his arms and gave a cold laugh. Drank a few cups of wine, and now you're full of yourself? The group of men froze when they saw all 6 princes. They quickly bowed, faces pale, then turned to me with hurried apologies. Really had too much to drink. Our apologies, Your Highness. I waved it off. It's fine, I know you were just trying to say hello. I wouldn't forgive him, but he was the second prince's cousin. I needed to show some restraint for his sake. The marquis heir quickly agreed and bowed again. Leaving already? Not staying for a drink, the crown prince asked coolly. The heir glanced at the second prince's expressionless face, then made an excuse and fled with his entourage. The crown prince turned his gaze on me. I shrank back, not daring to speak. I'll walk you to the washroom. He led the way and I followed, head bowed. Afterward, he stood in the corridor and scolded me. Did your hands grow long enough or not? I held out my hands. He tapped my palm. If they've grown, why not use them? Next time this happens, even if it's the emperor's brother, you slap him. I stared at him, shocked. Me? Hit a royal uncle. Hit him, the crown prince scoffed. I've got your back. You don't need to fear anyone. I nodded obediently. Back in a room, the others were all scolding the marquis heir and me.
Idiot.
You're a princess. What were you afraid of? The 5th prince said. Don't scare her, the 3rd prince chided. Still, you were a little too timid. I bit my lip and stayed quiet. How about we take revenge for Ashu? The 6th prince raised his hand. Let's find some dirt on him and report it. Let him get a proper beating. What report? I'll just take a few men and break his arm. Everyone turned to look at the 2nd prince. He laughed. Count me in.
All right.
I'll arrange it, said the 5th prince. The 6th prince squeezed next to me and tugged my hairpin. Little Ashu eat more tonight. Grow some guts. I scrunched up my nose at him, but couldn't help smiling again.
12.
They really did beat up the heir of the Yuan family. The 2nd prince was scolded again by Consort Xian, who stormed into the palace to demand justice from His Majesty. He only spoke a few words to Shu, she sobbed. How could that have offended so many people to the point they wanted his life? Yes, he might have said something inappropriate under the influence of alcohol, but that's all it was, just talk. He's a noble heir. Is Shu more precious than he is? In the next hall, silence fell. The 6th prince and I exchanged a glance. Just as we assumed His Majesty wouldn't speak, he finally opened his mouth. You came to me with this. Does the 2nd prince know what you're saying? Consort Xian said nothing. The 6 of them have grown closer, thanks to Ashu. Doesn't that make you happy? Well, I'm certainly pleased. Their fists united for the sake of brotherhood. I'm even more pleased. Look through the history of this dynasty or the last. No other princes have been as close as my sons are. With a heavy clunk, His Majesty set down his tea. Must you see them turn against one another? Brothers at each other's throats. For you to be satisfied? Consort Xian dropped to her knees. That's not what I meant. I just worry about my nephew, she whispered. Out of respect for the second prince, I'll let you off this once, His Majesty said coldly. But if you make another scene, I'll strip you of your title.
Get out.
Consort Xian held back tears as she left. The sixth prince and I tiptoed out. The moment we opened the door, a court official was standing there, smiling at us. We nearly jumped out of our skins. But after that, Consort Xian became noticeably more restrained. When she saw me, she smiled like she used to, and even asked me what I wanted to eat, sending it from the kitchen. The crown prince and the second prince didn't leave the palace again for some time. The empress gradually regained her spirits. I studied with the sixth prince, and his mother, Consort Shu, was especially fond of me. I had a feeling, among all the consorts in the harem, she was the one who cared about me most genuinely. I liked her too, even more than the empress. But the sixth prince gave her no peace with his studies, so I had to take on the duty of supervising him. You and Ah Shu are the same age, Consort Shu scolded, poking his forehead, but you're not half as clever. I smiled politely. I'm really the one who's slow. Soon you'll be 13, she said, tapping his head. When your father was your age, he was already engaged. Engaged? The sixth prince and I looked at each other, both our faces changing. We still saw ourselves as children, not ready for such things. How could we be thinking about marriage already? The crown prince and Prince Qi haven't even gotten engaged. Why should I be in a hurry? The sixth prince huffed. I'll think about it after father gives me my title. The crown prince was 18, the second prince was 17 and had already been titled Prince Qi. The third and fourth princes were 16, titled Prince Ning and Prince En. Only the fifth prince at 14 and the sixth prince at 12 remained untitled. Once they were titled, they'd open their own estates. The fifth prince spent most of his time on the training grounds, so I hardly saw him. Now it was only the sixth prince I saw, every day. I wandered home in a daze. Nanny noticed my heavy thoughts and asked with concern, did something happen at Diakwi Palace?
No, irraplia.
Consort Shu just mentioned marriage. I lay down and rested my head on my arm. Does everyone have to get married? Not necessarily for commoners, Nanny said gently. But princes carry the duty of continuing the bloodline. They must marry. And so must you, Ah Shu. One day, you'll be married off too. Married off? A dull ache rose in my chest. So this is what growing up meant. Even the people you love will eventually be separated from you. Ah Shu, Nanny said, closing the door and whispering near my ear. You grew up with the 6 princes. You've been like family since childhood. Do you like one of them more than the others? I suddenly remembered something the crown prince had once asked during a dinner at his residence. Who do you like best? I had shaken my head. Can I like them all? Nanny sighed and turned to Sister Xian, who had just entered. This girl still hasn't awakened to such things. After a pause, she added, if you ask me, the 6th prince is a good match. He and Ah Shu are inseparable. They eat together, play together, perfect harmony. I blinked at her in surprise. Sister Xian smiled faintly. I think Prince Qi is best. He's gentle and thoughtful, a true match. Sister Wan shook her head. If the crown prince ever sets his heart on her, Ah Shu won't be able to marry anyone else. The 3 of them fell silent, staring at me. I shook my head, thunder rumbling in my chest. I had never thought about marriage, let alone who among them I'd marry. But I could tell they were trying to nudge me. It was time I gave this real thought. I understand. I'll think about it seriously. Nanny stroked my head. That's more like it. You're 12 now. You can't act like a carefree little girl anymore.
Oh.
I nodded. That afternoon I had a strange dream. In the dream, the crown prince was marrying his cousin, Kaiji. She was beautiful and sweet-tempered. We often played together. Even the empress favored her as a potential crown princess. They looked perfect together.
Ashu, Ashu.
I opened my eyes. Nanny was staring at me, a little startled. What did you dream about? I shook my head. I don't remember. Come on, Consort Sien wants to see you, she said, helping me up. In the Hall of Eternal Spring, Consort Sien was applying crimson nail polish. As she blew on her nails, she waved off the other attendants and beckoned me over. I sat cautiously across from her, waiting for her reprimand. The Marquis of Huayi's household, her natal family, had been declining over the past 2 years. I'd heard the fourth prince mention before that when the crown prince had gone missing, their family had drawn too much attention and fallen out of the emperor's favor. With pressure from the Duke of Kai, who was the crown prince's maternal uncle, the marquisate had steadily declined. How old are you this year? Consort Sien asked as she sipped her tea. 12, I answered softly. She nodded and reclined lazily on the couch, resting her cheek on one hand as she scrutinized me. You've grown up to be quite the little beauty these past 2 years. I said nothing. Has your father registered you under your stepmother's name? Yes, when I was granted the title of county princess. She seemed satisfied with that answer and nodded. I didn't call you here for anything else. Just wanted to tell you something. I looked up at her, waiting. Prince Chi is getting engaged, she said abruptly. I hadn't heard anything about this before and couldn't hide my surprise. She suddenly sat upright and stared at me. Did you understand what I just said? Yes, I replied honestly, not trying to hide it from her. I'll keep my distance from His Highness.
Good, she said.
Don't think that just because you're a county princess, you're fit to be the princess consort of Qi. Her vividly red fingernails scraped lightly across the table. You silly girl. Though you're simple, you're likable. Since you understood me, I won't make things difficult for you. No matter who you end up marrying, this palace will ensure your dowry is properly filled. I returned to Kaidai Pavilion in a daze. That night, Prince Chi came to see me. We stood in the courtyard, and he asked bluntly, "Did my mother tell you to stay away from me?" I glanced at him and shook my head. No, she didn't say that. So you're just going to ignore me now? He bent slightly to study my expression. I sighed. I wasn't good at lying, so I explained, I understand the consort's concerns. She probably wants to find you a wife who's your equal in status. I don't need a wife who's my equal in status, Prince Chi replied coldly. For others, marrying into a powerful family might be a blessing, but for me, it's a curse. I understood what he meant, but Consort Sien clearly didn't see it that way. She needed a strong family alliance. As for my father, ever since the Crown Prince's disappearance and his closeness with the Marquis of Huayin, his political power had been gradually sidelined. In court, he was like an arrow at the end of its flight. Ashu, Prince Chi said gently, no matter what my mother says to you in the future, just listen and don't take it to heart. I nodded. Ashu, do you have any? He didn't finish his sentence. I looked at him, waiting. Instead, he stepped forward and hugged me lightly, sighing, Hurry and grow up. It's so hard waiting for you. After that, he gazed at me for a moment before leaving. After he left, I lay in bed for 2 days. When the sixth prince came to see me, he touched my forehead and asked if I was sick. I shook my head. I'm just feeling down, I said, then asked, what do you think about marriage? The sixth prince nudged me inside, then lay down next to me. We both stared at the canopy in silence. Ashu, I've been thinking about it these past 2 days too. He turned to face me and I turned too. Go on, I'm listening. The sixth prince hesitated, then said, I think if I have to get married, why not to you? To me? I was stunned. You want to marry me? He nodded, looking a bit troubled. Compared to marrying someone else, I'd rather marry you. If we were together, we'd be happy for the rest of our lives. I thought about it and nodded. That makes sense, but I need time to think it over. If I married the sixth prince, Consort Shu definitely wouldn't object. Then you think about it. The sixth prince pulled out 2 candies from his bag and handed one to me. I'll think about it too. My mother says marriage is a big deal. It needs serious thought. My nursemaid said the same thing.
Sigh.
Why do people have to get married at all?
14.
Autumn faded and winter arrived. I fell ill. My stomach hurt terribly, and I cried in Nanny's arms for a long time. On New Year's Day, the 7 of us were setting off fireworks in the garden when the 6th prince suddenly pointed at my skirt and shouted, "Ashu, there's so much blood on your skirt. Are you hurt?" I tugged at my skirt and was startled to see it stained.
Everyone looked at me.
The 4th prince quickly covered the 6th prince's mouth. The crown prince yanked the cloak off Xianjia's arm and wrapped it around me, then ordered the sedan, "Escort the county princess back." I leaned in the sedan, feeling utterly dejected as I waved goodbye to them. That night, the crown prince came to see me, carrying fireworks in hand. "You didn't get to see them earlier, so I'll set some off just for you," he said. "Can you get up?" I nodded excitedly. The fireworks burst into the sky, dazzling and brilliant. I watched, distracted. The crown prince flicked my forehead. "Spacing out while watching fireworks? What are you thinking about?" And nothing. I didn't want to tell him I'd been fretting over whether or not I should marry the 6th prince. Nanny kept saying the 6th prince was a good match. We'd surely live in harmony our whole lives. Xianjia once asked me why I hadn't considered marrying the 2nd prince. "He's never said he wanted to marry me," I'd said, lying on my bed thinking of the 2nd prince's face. "And besides, Consort Xian doesn't like me. If I married him, they'd both be unhappy." Xianjia had sighed deeply. So now that the crown prince was asking, I didn't dare say a word. "By the Lantern Festival, you should be all better, right?" he asked. I wasn't sure. This was my first time getting my period. "I should be fine," I answered. "I'll come get you for the Lantern Festival. Don't tell anyone. If you do, I'll make you copy 50 pages. I covered my mouth and nodded, stifling a laugh. "Dummy," the crown prince said, rolling his eyes with a smile as he left. On the Lantern Festival, I turned down all other invitations and waited for the crown prince at home. After dark, a young eunuch delivered a new outfit. Wanjia helped me change and whispered, "Hold the crown prince's hand tightly. Don't get separated." "Hold what hand?"
Nanni skoldet vanje. Guanya frovned.
"Just follow His Highness. You'll be fine." It was my second time going to the Lantern Festival. There were more people than before. When I got out of the carriage, the crown prince immediately pressed a half-mask of a painted monkey to my face and grabbed my hand. I froze for a second, then let him pull me along. All around us, lanterns blazed brightly, the streets alive with noise and light, but all I could see was our joined hands. It felt different. Unlike all the other times we held hands. "Hungry?" he asked, holding up some pastries skewered on a bamboo stick. "These are from the north. I wanted to bring you some before, but things got in the way. Been regretting it." I bit into one he held to my mouth.
"Good."
I nodded. "I'll try too." He bit the spot where I had. I pointed at the pastry, trying to remind him. He just held it up again. "Too sweet. You shouldn't eat much. One more bite, I'll eat the rest."
So I took a small bite.
He finished the rest. After that, everything blurred. I just followed the crown prince around in a daze. It felt like we went many places. 15. The next day, I found out that on the morning of the Lantern Festival, the Empress had hosted a banquet for the lady of Duke Kai's household. She even proposed marriage between the crown prince and Kai Ji. The Empress told the crown prince to accompany Kai Ji to the Lantern Festival. But instead, he had taken me. I remembered the pastry we shared. There had been times like that before, but I never thought much of it. Why did it feel different last night? Nanny pushed open the door and quietly said, "There was quite a scene in Cunning Palace. Her Majesty is furious." "What happened?" I asked, sitting up under the covers. "Over the crown prince's marriage," Nanny's voice caught. "Ah, shoo, listen to Nanny. How about you marry the 6th prince instead?" I sat in a daze. The crown prince will one day be emperor. If you marry him, and you're not made empress, you'll have to bow your head to others. Once you become a consort, it won't be like now. It'll be schemes and struggles. How will you handle it? I nodded. "I'll listen to Nanny. I'll go tell the 6th prince to marry me. That way, Her Majesty wouldn't be angry at the crown prince anymore." Nanny breathed a sigh of relief. Nanny only wants our Ashu to live a smooth, peaceful life. That afternoon, I went to find the sixth prince to talk about marriage. But when I passed the garden, I saw the crown prince with Kaiji. On impulse, I hid, wanting to eavesdrop. I couldn't hear anything from that distance. Kaiji didn't stay long. Just as I was about to leave, I turned and bumped straight into the crown prince. Impressive. You've learned to eavesdrop now, he said coldly.
I didn't dare speak.
You came looking for me? He asked. I shook my head. And no, I was going to the study hall to find the sixth prince.
Why?
I covered my mouth, not wanting to lie, but not daring to tell the truth. Since I ran into you, I'll say what I came to say. Keep it in mind, be prepared, the crown prince said. Okay, I nodded. You're grown up now. I'm going to ask father for a marriage decree today. He reached out and patted my head. All the things you learned from mother, keep reviewing them. You'll need them. I stared at him, my mind roaring. You don't like me? He asked. I shook my head frantically.
Good.
Then I'll make you like me even more. He turned to leave, but paused and looked back. Remember, you're my little stone mouse. I raised you, bite by bite. You can only belong to me. He smirked and walked off with long strides. I drifted back to Kaitai Pavilion in a daze.
16.
The crown prince really did request an imperial decree for our engagement. The empress slapped him across the face and summoned me for a scolding. But the crown prince stood at the door, face cold as steel. You can interfere in everything else, he said, but if anyone dares meddle with the person I've chosen to be by my side, then I'll truly fulfill your wish, mother, and turn completely lawless. The empress wept, calling him unfilial. The crown prince continued, all these years, I've obeyed everything you said. Every word, every decision, I followed without question. I've been saving all this obedience, this filial piety, just to earn your blessing to marry the woman I love. I've given in on 100 things, 1,000 things. And now for this one thing, you would invalidate everything I've done? If that's the case, then from now on, for 100 things, 1,000 things, I won't be filial anymore. Before his parents' eyes, the crown prince kicked the study door off its hinges and left in a fury. They said the empress was stunned, sitting stiffly in her chair, speechless. His Majesty tried to console her. I've met that niece from your family, he said. She's overly composed and dignified. That might suit someone else, but she and the crown prince are not well matched. How is she not a match? The empress argued. You don't understand that child. The crown prince is deeply calculating. He's been planning this marriage for years. When you were his age, did you have such foresight? The emperor asked. The empress shook her head. The crown prince's brilliance had always been her pride. He needs someone like Ah Shu, gentle, obedient, someone who understands him. And honestly, ask yourself, why do you look down on Ah Shu? The empress didn't respond for a long time. When I heard this story from others, I was completely stunned. So the crown prince had been preparing to marry me for a long, long time? My heart thumped violently. I was burning with the urge to see him. I also understood why the empress didn't want me to marry him, because she believed the other princes were all strong and capable, and if I became empress in the future, I wouldn't be able to hold my own against their noble-born wives. I didn't get to see the crown prince, but Chi Wang came instead. He didn't use the main door, he knocked on my window. I stood at the window and looked at him. His voice was hoarse and broken. Ah Shu, did you know the crown prince asked for the decree? I nodded. And what do you think? He asked. I was silent for a moment. He grew anxious. If you don't want this, I'll go request a decree too. But I worry it'll only make things worse for you. If we fight over you, everyone will blame you. I understood. People would say I had stirred chaos in the palace and driven a wedge between the brothers. Don't go, I told him. I'm willing to marry the crown prince. Chi Wang staggered slightly. Then what about me? Don't you want to marry me? It's not the same, I murmured, clutching my brush and letting ink drip onto the paper. You can be mad at me, yell at me, even cut ties if you want. Chi Wang gripped the window frame, his eyes bloodshot, and murmured, Ah Shu, do you not love me? I couldn't look at him. It hurt to see him in pain, but I didn't know what else I could do. I used to love all of you equally, I said softly. But lately I've started to feel something different. Chi Wang's tears fell. I panicked. I didn't want to hurt him. But at this point, any words would only make things worse. All I could do was look at him with regret. Eventually, he left. I stood by the window for a long, long time. That afternoon, the sixth prince came charging in after school.
Ashu.
The crown prince asked for the imperial decree. What are you thinking? Are you marrying him or me? He gulped down a large cup of water. I want to marry the crown prince, I said. The sixth prince looked at me strangely. You sure? He's so strict. What if he keeps punishing you? He punishes me for my own good. Then what about me? Who am I going to marry? The sixth prince looked utterly dejected as he slumped across from me. Could you at least marry later, like when you're 20? I thought for a moment. The crown prince probably can't wait that long. But at least 2 more years. I haven't even come of age yet. That reassured him.
Fine.
As long as you're happy. He handed me a candy. Ashu, as long as you're happy. I laughed and popped the candy into his mouth. You'll find someone to marry too. That afternoon, the imperial marriage decree arrived. I went to see the empress and the emperor. According to custom, I should have left the palace and returned home. But the empress wouldn't let me go. She kept a stern face and said, "Keep her in the palace. I'll teach her personally for 2 years." The crown prince looked at me to ask if I was willing. The empress caught the look. "What, do you think I'm going to eat her?" she snapped, pointing at him. "And you tone it down. If people hear about this, they'll only say she's a femme fatale." The crown prince didn't respond to her. He only nodded when I nodded first. "Then I'll leave it to mother to decide," he said. I finally let out a breath of relief. The empress gave the crown prince a sharp glare. 17. The empress wasn't a petty person. Since she had agreed to the marriage, she didn't make things difficult for me anymore. However, she was very strict, stricter than the crown prince. Nanny sighed for days, but eventually accepted that I was going to marry the crown prince. To become crown princess. Clearly, the crown prince truly values our Ashu. I told you, once the crown prince sets his heart on something, no one else can interfere, Wang Jijia said. Sigh, poor Prince Qi. He had a fight with Consort Xian and has been sick for over a week, Xian Jiju added. I wanted to go visit Prince Qi, but since I was now engaged, it wouldn't be appropriate to go alone. So I waited, planning to visit together with the others. But before I could go, Prince Qi requested to be posted to the south. Why is he going south? I asked the crown prince. There are pirates down there. He wants to gain some experience. The crown prince sipped his tea, then looked at me. Do you want to see him off? I nodded. Then prepare some mosquito repellent and summer clothes for him. When he sets off, I'll take you along. I nodded eagerly and worked with Nanny to make plenty of herbal remedies and light clothing. Prince Qi had grown thinner, and his eyes looked dull. He patted my head and said, Learn well from the Empress. You take care too, and don't forget to write us. Prince Qi nodded, then looked up at the crown prince. Their gazes met with mutual clarity. Big brother, take good care of Ashu. I will. I raised her bite by bite. I won't let her suffer, the crown prince said gently. If you ever run into trouble, tell me. Don't bear it alone. I'll always have your back. Prince Qi's eyes turned red. Ignoring Consort Xian's cries to speak with him, he turned and rode off at full gallop. I wiped my tears too. The other princes were all crying as well. Prince Qi was gone for 2 years and never once wrote to me. After New Year, you'll be 16, right? The crown prince suddenly appeared behind me. He was very tall now. I had to look up to see him. Then let's get married on the 2nd day of the 2nd lunar month. What do you think? I was stunned. I can't wait any longer, he said, bending down to hug me, then quickly letting go. I want to hold you openly and proudly. I smiled and nodded. It's your call for things like this. All right, I'll make the arrangements, the crown prince said, tapping my nose. Don't be scared. I won't bully you. I puffed up my cheeks and muttered, I'm not so easy to bully either. He laughed heartily. The night before our wedding, I returned to the Sher residence. My father was no longer Grand Chancellor, but thanks to me, he still held considerable power in the capital. My stepmother looked at me the same way as always. I understood her feelings. Her two legitimate daughters had carefully chosen their husbands, yet neither was particularly impressive. And I, the concubine's daughter, was now a titled noble and crown princess to be.
But it didn't bother me.
Over the years in the palace, so many had treated me well and doted on me. I no longer remembered the bitterness of my childhood. Everyone has likes and dislikes. That's only human. The night before my wedding, my father gave me my dowry, and my stepmother offered me jewelry. Both my older sisters came early to help, and my brothers and brothers-in-law also pitched in with full effort. I was deeply touched and prepared gifts in return for all of them. They're only treating you well because you're the crown princess. No need to be moved, Wanjijia said. If they treat me well, I'll be moved. If they treat me badly, I'll hold a grudge. One thing doesn't cancel out the other, I told her. Wanjijia burst out laughing and hugged me, and Nanny twisted her ear. You're all grown, yet you're not half as clear-headed as Ashu. The wedding was grand and splendid. With the bridal veil over my head, I was carried in the bridal sedan by my older brother. We weren't very close, but as he stuffed a copper coin into my hand, he choked up. If we could do it all again, I swear I'd protect you back then. It's all right, it's all right.
We're family now.
We've got time to make up for it, I told him. My brother wept as he lowered the bridal curtain. There were so many ceremonial formalities that I didn't get to rest until the day was nearly over. With a burst of laughter and a symbolic weighing rod, my red bridal veil was lifted. I looked up at the crown prince, smiling shyly. He gazed down at me, the smile in his eyes spilling over. Leaning down slightly, he whispered into my ear, Ashu, this really feels like a dream. It did feel like a dream, so beautiful, so surreal. I suddenly thought of the dream I had 2 years ago, where the crown prince married Kaiji. I'd woken up with tears all over my face. Nanny had said that even back then, she knew my heart belonged to the crown prince. Only I hadn't realized it yet. What are you whispering about? Prince Ping suddenly yelled. We want to hear it too. He leaned in ear first. Old 5, do you want me to beat you? The crown prince kicked at him, making him jump away laughing. The guests joked and laughed for a while before finally dispersing. By the time the crown prince returned from the front hall, I had already washed up and was hiding in the room eating. Tired? He asked as he stepped in. I went up to help him remove his outer robe, but instead of answering, he pulled me tightly into his arms. Finally, he murmured, I can hold you without any reservations. I wrapped my arms around him too. He lifted my chin and kissed me. His scent was familiar. It was one I'd known for years. Ashu, you really are sweet, he said with a hoarse, affectionate voice, brushing kisses over my brows and eyes. Are you happy?
Yes.
Very happy, so very happy. I'll go take a bath. Wait for me, he said as he turned to leave. But just then, a noise came from outside the door. The crown prince frowned and opened it, then immediately shouted, All of you, get out here. I rushed over and peeked through the crack. 1 head, 2, 3, 4, 5 heads. Hee, we came to crash the bridal chamber, said Prince Ping. I came with 5th brother, added Prince Ning. Prince An chimed in, me too. The 6th prince entered holding a wine jar as tall as himself, his voice muffled. Such an important day. It'd be a shame not to drink. He squeezed into the bridal room. Soon, everyone piled in. I tilted my head and looked outside. There seemed to be a figure standing in the shadows. Is that Prince Chi? I asked. The crown prince paused too and turned to look. From the dim shadows, Prince Chi stepped forward. He wore a light moon-colored robe, refined and elegant, like an immortal under the moonlight. He held out a wedding gift, smiling at me as he approached. Just returned to the capital. Still a bit late. Not at all. No time is too late. I waved him over and pulled him into the room. Inside, the others had already set up a table. Food and wine were brought in. The 7 of us sat around the table. I looked at the familiar faces before me, heart full and warm. For the Crown Prince and Ah Shu's wedding, no more talk. 3 drinks first, said Prince Ping. I glanced at Prince Chi. He was drinking too, his expression unchanged. What are you looking at me for? He smiled. You shouldn't drink too much. He turned to the Crown Prince. Has she gotten any better at drinking? The Crown Prince shook his head. No idea. I haven't let her drink since. I know. Prince Rue raised his hand. With a small cup, she can handle 2, but not more than that. As soon as she said that, I downed my 3rd cup. Oh no! Prince Ping shouted. That's strong liquor. I waved my hand. It's fine. I can handle 3. Seeing I was fine, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. The drinking continued. Eventually, I was the only one left sober. Prince Rue slumped on a chair, wailing. You said you'd marry me. You went back on your word. Lucky I did. You don't like me, and I don't like you. We'd be miserable together. I wiped his mouth and soothed him. Who says I didn't like you? I just didn't want to make things hard for you. He wiped away a tear and downed a huge cup. Whatever. As long as you're happy. Prince Chi nodded. As long as Ah Shu is happy. The Crown Prince watched his brothers, arms folded, a smug smile on his face. Can the Crown Prince take a few days off now? Since second brother is back, let's go on a trip. Where to? Baoding. Too close. This time of year, we should go down to Jiangnan. Jiangnan's too far. Then let's go to Yongping. That's Ah Shu's fiefdom. She's never been. My eyes lit up. Can we? To Yongping it is, said the Crown Prince decisively. I leapt up with joy, raised my cup and declared, Shu, toast you all.
To what? They asked.
I paused and said solemnly, love. Love for the Crown Prince, love for you all, love for everyone, and every moment I should cherish. How lucky I am to have met you all after all the hardships. Like 6 beams of light, you've illuminated my whole life. Crown Prince Extra 1. I can't remember when I first started liking Shu, but it no longer matters. Watching her grow up, I just knew I would marry her in this lifetime. The girl I raised myself, I want to keep raising her for the rest of my life. I knew my younger brothers liked her too. That didn't bother me. People only avoid ugly things. Ah Shu is so wonderful. It's only natural to like her. On our wedding night, those 5 idiots refused to leave my wedding chamber. They caused such a ruckus. It lasted until dawn. 5th brother was out in the courtyard throwing punches and somehow managed to punch a hole through the courtyard wall. I still don't know if he was jealous or just showing off. 6th brother got drunk and collapsed on Shu's shoulder, crying and asking if she could marry twice. He kept saying he was too young and foolish back then, and that he'd said something stupid that I couldn't tolerate. I threw him out. 2nd brother kept drinking and smiling. He's always been a man of few words, but I could tell he was the one feeling it the most. I pitied him and drank a few cups with him. He finally got drunk and leaned on my shoulder, sobbing. He said, "These past 2 years, I've come to understand. I know why I lost to you." I wasn't pleased. I gave him another cup. Why? Because I'm not as decisive as you. I overthink things and hesitate too much. I thought Shu understood my feelings, but she's such a little fool. If you don't say it, she won't get it at all. I scoffed. You thought that if you said it, you could steal her from me? Maybe I could've, he muttered, sitting upright and bracing himself on the table. Maybe I could've. I pointed to the group of chaos demons still tearing up my courtyard. They all thought the same. He turned and let out a long sigh, his shoulders slumping. Forget it. As long as she's happy, that's all that matters.
Good.
Now that you've figured it out, rein yourself in and stop thinking about her. I told him.
Me?
I'll try, 2nd brother said, crying and smiling at the same time. Crown Prince Extra 2. So much for my wedding night. It was ruined by their nonsense. But I let it slide for once. They were more heartbroken than I was. The next evening, I locked up the Crown Prince's residence and clung to Ah Shu, pestering her to make me some snacks. Once I'd eaten, I dragged her back to the room. Ah Shu blushed deeply, clutching the curtain and asking if it was too early since the sun hadn't set yet. Early? Spring nights are too short, so we make them longer ourselves, I said and kissed her. Ah Shu tasted exactly as I imagined, sweet and soft. She whimpered and curled into my arms, clutching my shoulder. My heart melted. I couldn't stop kissing her. Ah Shu, do you like me? I kept asking.
Ida.
I really, really like you, she said, eyes bright, eyebrows arched full of me. My heart bloomed like a flower. From the day she moved in, the usually quiet Crown Prince's residence was suddenly full. So were the rooms, and so was my heart. I couldn't bear for Ah Shu to get pregnant too early. I waited 2 years, even consulted midwives. She didn't conceive until she was 18. When she gave birth, those eyesores came again, crowding around to see the baby girl. They didn't bother having their own, but were eager to fawn over mine. A year later, Ah Shu had another, this time a boy. He was all right. Not as pretty as our daughter, though. In the years that followed, my brothers all got married. The house became full of little kids, running around and chattering nonstop. Honestly, it was exhausting. But isn't that what life is? A lifetime of love, a lifetime of memories. All the sweetness, bitterness, sorrow, and joy, they're part of the journey, and all deserve to be remembered and cherished. That was something Ah Shu told me. My Ah Shu, she lives more clearly and fully than anyone I know. The end.